Now, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but y'all, I think the ACC is on the clock, and I think what we just got with a settlement between Florida State and Clemson and the ACC pretty much signs the beginning of the end for the ACC. We'll talk about that right now. If you are a college football sicko, we talk about stuff like this because it pertains to college football, but usually it's game breakdowns, talking about recruiting, talking about the portal, talking about the sport that it is, not just these lawyerish things that happen around the sport. But regardless, make sure you're subscribed. We'll talk about this as long as it pertains to the greatest sport on the face of planet Earth. So, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, Florida State and Clemson have been trying to get out of the ACC for some time. A large part of that is them saying, hey, listen, we feel like we bring in a lot of the revenue to this deal, but we were before now bringing in a equal piece of the pie to other schools that don't bring in quite as much revenue as us when it comes to viewership. And so they got that part of it figured out, but what they really wanted, again, was to get out of the ACC. And what a lot of people would tell you, the lawyers and the legal types, they would love to just laugh at you and say, no, it's not how. You see that piece of paper? There's no way they're getting out of there. 2036, that's when you can leave the ACC, Florida State and Clemson. Again, by nature of this settlement between the ACC and those schools, that looks like it will not be the case. What's going on here is the powers that be between Florida State, Clemson, and the ACC now have a number to get out of the ACC that drops to below $100 million around the year 2030. Okay, if they were to try to get out tomorrow, it'd be somewhere in the range of like $200 million. So around 2030, less than $100 million, a lot more doable than that $200 million figure I just mentioned. So let's unpack this from Florida State and Clemson's perspective, what's going on here, and then from the ACC's perspective. Because to give you the total details here, you got that number, and then you also have Florida State and Clemson restructuring some of the revenue sharing where they will be afforded, again, a larger piece of the pie as it pertains to the revenue they bring into the ACC that correlates, I believe, with their viewership. So from Florida State and Clemson side, the way that I look at this, you got a lot of what you feel like you need, maybe not everything you want, because everything you want would be to get out of the ACC tomorrow. That's not going to happen. Now, what you needed, though, was a smaller window to get out of the ACC, which we already alluded to, and you get more money in line with your viewership as long as you're in the ACC. So you check that box. From the ACC's perspective, you've been fighting for a while. Think about it as a relationship between the ACC and these schools. You've sort of been bickering back and forth. We've got lawsuits. We've got bad vibes. This is now the text being sent to you, hey, can we talk? You know you're breaking up. You know it's not gonna end until death do us part. Hey, we figured out when to count. It's not happening here. It's gonna end. You just got the text. Can we talk? Now it's a matter of when and how and all that and the like. It's going to end. And the reason why I feel like it's going to end, remember the Big Ten and the way that whole thing came together, the new Big Ten, I should say. What was the first domino to fall? USC and UCLA leaving the Pac-12 to join the Big Ten. So the Big Ten's growing, right? And good vibes for the Big Ten, but the Pac-12 loses two pretty key Jenga blocks in that whole thing. And then you have some more news break with Oregon and Washington. And it slowly but surely started to topple over. I think that's going to be kind of the same vibe with the ACC. Once Clemson and Florida State get out in what looks like 2030-ish, I don't think they're going to be the only schools that leave. I think you'll see some other big brands in that conference eventually find a way out and go to whatever the Big Ten or the SEC, I would assume, are the two schools you're looking at here as we just hurtle full speed towards the Super Conference era. This was always sort of going to, like, nobody here is surprised by this headline. It was always a matter of when, not so much a matter of if you catch my drift here. So going back to what I said a second ago about that timeline, with it being 2030, the reason why that's relevant to the rest of college football, that's when the Big Ten's TV deal is up. So at that point in time, you'd have to imagine the Big Ten could be in the market for adding some other teams in this whole Super Conference discussion. The SEC's TV deal, for those keeping track, not up till 2034. Now, it doesn't mean that they couldn't get in the mix here before then. There'd be some other things to explore as to how that could happen. Again, I'm not the suit and tie lawyer intel guy for you, but just if we're looking at this as a college football fan, that is the way this thing is trending. The Big Ten and the SEC are, again, the super conferences. This is not a surprise to anybody, but it looks like Florida State and Clemson will be in good position to get out of there around the year 2030. So there's a lot to try and keep track of in this whole thing. We'll do all we can to keep you as in the know as possible as it pertains to the legalities of this whole thing and the tectonic plates of college football realignment. If you want to get some more nitty-gritty details and intel, really great article by Andy Staples over on all3.com, so go check that out. Pete Nakos also covering this to the nth degree. So a lot going on. College football is changing. Not a surprise, but it looks like now we have a number and more or less a year where I would expect personally Florida State and Clemson to get out, and that number is less than $100 million, and that year is right around 2030. So let me know your thoughts on this. Where would you like to see Florida State and Clemson end up, assuming it was the ACC or the Big Ten? Which of those would be your choice? Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. We will keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time.